Excellent.
Alrighty. Thank you. I think we can move on now. This is not-
All right. On to public record.
There is nothing on file for public record at the moment, and since there has been no correspondence received, we can move on to open forum. So at this time, if any member of the public wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda today, you will have 2 minutes of speaking time. Is there anyone who would like to raise their hand?
At this time, I don't see any members of the public present with us here on our webinar. So I think that being said, we can continue right along.
Alrighty. So consent calendar. In this section, we'd like to have a sweeping motion to approve the September 27th meeting minutes, approve the attendance record, and approve the district-specific Youth Advisory Council work plans for District 8. So at this time, is there a motion on the table to approve the following under the consent calendar?
I, Commissioner Yutinko, move to approve the September 27th, 2021 meeting minutes and attendance record, as well as the District 8th Youth Advisory Council specific work plan.
Thank you. Are there any seconds?
Hi, Commissioner Chen, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Then the motion to approve all the items under consent calendar has unanimously passed. We can move on to discussion and action items. So the first discussion and action item was held from last month's general meeting. It is to approve District 4's policy proposal regarding electric vehicles. I am going to assume that everybody has read the document prior. So at this time, is there any discussion or a motion to pass this policy proposal?
All right. I think we discussed this enough last meeting, so I'll go ahead and motion to approve this proposal.
Thank you. Are there any seconds?
Commissioner Escobar, I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Then as motioned by Commissioner Chen and seconded by Commissioner Escobar, this action item successfully passes unanimously. We can move on to the second action item.
Yes. So I'm going to click through the slides really fast. I included the proposal in case anyone wanted to see it. So bear with me as we click through some very bright slides and get to B.
As a refresher, this policy proposal is to require new parking lots to be built with at least 30% of the space dedicated to electric vehicle charging areas, such as the areas that we see in the Oak Ridge Mall area. At this time, is there any discussion or motions on the floor?
I, Commissioner Yutinko, move to approve District 3's policy proposal regarding parking requirements.
Are there any seconds to that?
By Commissioner Shriram, second Commissioner Yutinko's motion to discuss and approve the District 3 policy proposal regarding parking requirements.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Me too.
That would mean it is a 3-2, correct?
I believe so.
Alright. Then, due to majority vote, as motioned by Commissioner Yutinko and seconded by Commissioner Sriram, this policy successfully moves forward with the 3 vote, those 3 being Commissioner Yutinko, Sriram, and Chen, and the 2 abstentions being Commissioner Escobar and Commissioner Juneja. We can move on to informational reports.
All right, once again, very bright slides. I apologize. And here we are. Reports and information for us this evening. Quite a few.
All righty. Mr. Burnham and Mr. Ross signed up this evening? Or am I not seeing this correctly?
Yeah, so
Oh,
today
Ms. Ross.
we're going to have a sort of a presentation here from Parks, Recreation and Neighborhood Services, PRNS for short, presented to us by Rebecca Ross. And she's going to tell us about PRNS's fee study. Pretty cool. Rebecca, are you ready?
I'm ready. Hello, can everybody hear me? I turn off my self view because it's too distracting. So let me know if there's anything I should be aware of while I'm speaking. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Ross. I am a supervising planner with the Parks, Recreation and Neighborhood Services Capital Division and Capital Improvement Projects Division, which is a mouthful. And what that really means in plain language is we're the team that does all the planning work and all the pre-construction work to help build new parks, to build new and to help improve existing and new and future parks. And that's the primary role. My team does all the planning work. So we do all the forefront work that helps us identify new areas where we want to have parks or trails, perhaps a new community center where we need to do improvements. That's the primary responsibility of my team. So what we do is super important because this is how we get those new facilities and how we can get access between the facilities and the trails and potentially have more services in our community centers. Next slide, please. So the reason why I'm here today is this is an introduction. I want to introduce myself because I'm going to come back to you again. And when I come back to you again, we'll have things for you to consider. And I want you to be able to have some background information so that you can be informed and have some orientation when I come back. We want to inform you about a study that we're doing about fees that developers pay when they come in to do new development within the city of San Jose. And so the study is going to inform how those fees come in, and those fees are what pay for those projects that I was just talking to you about. Next slide. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of the regulatory background. I'll try not to be too boring or too technical, and I'm going to emphasize why those ordinances are important. I'll let you know about the steps forward and how you can help participate. And I know this says Senior Commission. Sorry, I didn't catch that. I gave the same presentation to the Senior Commission last week, but that should say Youth Commission because this is here we are today. Next slide. So as I mentioned, my team and I, we work with developers. So developers are people who come into the city of San Jose and they want to build something new. And that could be new housing, that could be a new tower, that could be a new commercial project. And so all developers go through a planning process where it goes through land use evaluations, and then they have to get very specific permits to entitle them to be able to build whatever it is that they're proposing to build. Most of that planning work happens with planning, building, and code enforcement. But my team in particular is very special. We get to do parks planning. And so we work with those developers to make sure that they meet this law. So I'm going to tell you about 2 laws that the city has that developers have to comply with when they come in to build new residential development. So there are 2 chapters in the municipal code, that's the city's laws. And there's a bunch of resolutions where the city can take actions through the city council. And so we also oversee those, but primarily it's these 2 laws. One is called the Park Impact Ordinance and one is called the Parkland Dedication Ordinance. And essentially they're the same, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty or the technical details, but what they require developers to do is to dedicate to the city 3 acres of land for every 1,000 people that are added to the city by their project. So if somebody comes in and they're building a new development, and based on the number of units, let's say that project's going to have 1,000 new people that are going to live there, then that developer would have to give us 3 acres of land for park purposes. Now, they can meet this obligation primarily through the land dedication, which is our preferred method, or they can, we can translate that land dedication into a fee where they pay money instead of giving us land. And the idea is that that money is supposed to go towards the city being able to go out and buy land and provide parkland. Or they can build us a new park or a new trail or a new community center, or they can improve existing facilities. Or they can do a combination of the two. They can pay a fee, they can build a project, they can donate land. So it's negotiated, and that's what my team does, is we negotiate with these developers to see how they're going to comply with this law. Next slide. Any money that we collect from when they negotiate to pay a fee instead of giving us land goes into something called the Park Trust Fund. And the Park Trust Fund is this very special pot of money that the city has for these purposes that I've described. And it can't be spent on operations or maintenance. So it can't be spent on having, an event there, or or regular maintenance when they have to go out and fix the sprinklers or anything like that. It's specifically for a new project to either improve an existing, let's say a playground or a trail or a skate park, but it can't be towards mowing the lawns or anything like that. And it's our top source of funds for delivering these types of projects. And so we rely very heavily on it. If you look over on the right side, you'll see the amount of money that we received since 2017. And it looks like big money, right? And it is big money. I'm not saying it's not. It is big money, millions of dollars. But if you look below that, you'll see how much it costs to actually do these types of projects. So it's very expensive. So, if you wanted to build a new park, it's $6 million an acre, or $50 million for a community center. So you can see how those monies that we receive get whittled down pretty fast, depending on the type of project that we have. Next slide. This is a map that we're refining of some of the facilities that you may or may not be familiar with that have been either been built or improved upon with the Park Trust Fund monies. So you can see how it affects our city, how important it is for our city, and for our services as well. Next slide. So we haven't evaluated how we collect, how we charge the money, how we calculate that, how we can spend the money since those programs have been adopted in the late 70s and 80s. So it's been chugging along. So we've been wanting to look at, do a deep dive and do a hardcore evaluation on this program for some time. And so we've hired a consultant called DTA and Associates to help us with this fee study. And they're a financing consulting group, and they've done other fee studies for other cities. And they're going to write a report for us, and they're going to help us make recommendations on how we can either change or keep change to something we want to work towards, or keep what's working. Next slide. So the intent of this fee study in particular is we want it to be transparent. We want anybody on the Youth Commission to be able to say, oh, this is how Parks evaluates their fees, and this is how the developer does it, and I understand. It also helps the developers when this happens, because they can have a more predictable financing model, and they can get more predictable financing to help make these projects come to downtown, to anywhere in San Jose, not just downtown, excuse me. We want to look at the geographic boundaries of where the money can be spent. So currently, when we collect the money can only be spent within 3/4 of a mile for a neighborhood project, or 3 miles for a community serving project. And a neighborhood project would be like a small park where there's no parking or bathrooms. If you're familiar with Newhall Park, that's a perfect example of a neighborhood park. And a community serving park is typically where you have bathrooms and where people come from all over the city. And Rotary Play Garden is a good example of that. Mayfair Skate Park is a good example of that. There's some larger, we want to see if we can expand those geographic boundaries. So there's a lot of parts of the city where we get more development than others. So typically that's in District 6, District 3, And so they typically have more funds for these types of projects than other council districts. And so we want to see if we can take the money in those resource rich areas and put it in areas where we don't see a lot of development, like in Council District 5, 7, 9. The city has some larger priority items going on right now. So there's something called the Development Fee Framework. And that's alluding back to that transparency I was telling you about. It's a way for the city to be more transparent about a lot of impact fees, not just park fees. So this is going to align with that. And developers can apply for credits towards their obligation. And our current credit program is just as outdated as our ordinances. So we want to look at that and say, what makes sense? And this is going to be probably one of the biggest questions we'll come back to the Youth Commission too. It's like, what should a developer get credit for? If we're giving them credit and they're not going to give us their full amount of money in the fees, what type of amenities would you like to see that they should get credit for? Should that be a plaza where it's publicly accessible, where everybody can come and enjoy the plaza, including you, have food trucks, whatever? Or could it be a swimming pool inside the apartment building? So if somebody's using their facilities within their apartment building and they're not going to our parks or our pools or our community centers, does that mean that lessens their impact? And so they should get a credit for that. So we do look forward to having that conversation in the future, but I hope it will get your imagination stirring. If you want to look into that a little bit more, they're called POPOs, POPOS, privately owned, publicly accessible open space. So you can look that up on the internet. The city council gave us direction to see if there's a potential to charge developers a commercial impact fee, so that the when somebody wants to come in and build a new office building or a new Costco or whatever have you, the idea is that sometimes they use our facilities during the day or in the evening. They may go to a community center to work out, or they may ride on our trail, or they may go have their lunch in a park. So should they be paying a fee as well? So we're looking into that. And then we want to align, we also want to look and make sure that everything's aligned with our general plan. And so the city's general plan is just basically the blueprint of how the city's supposed. The city council adopted the general plan as the blueprint of how they want the city to grow. And it's a fairly thick document, but we want to make sure that we're aligned with that. And then our department, Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, has our own department plan called Activate SJ, which has very specific goals and ambitions as well. So we're going to align with that. Next slide. We're going to do a lot of public engagement. We're going to come back to you with other reports in the future, and we're going to ask questions of you and ask for your advice. But we also hope that you will act as ambassadors. So I'm going to make sure that the Youth Commission Secretary can send to you commissioners announcements of when there's opportunities for public engagement and public participation. And we hope that you will participate in those public meetings, and we hope that you'll encourage others to participate in those public meetings, because this is a very important study that we're doing, and we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to have a say in how it goes, because these are the public's amenities, and it's a public benefit, and we want to make sure that it's aligned with the public desire. We do hope to have something before City Council in December 2022, and we'll keep you informed of that timeline. Next slide. So if you have any questions, you can contact me by all means. I hope you do. I would love to hear your questions. I would love to engage with you. I'd love to hear your ideas and thoughts. You can also email my boss, my supervisor, Deputy Director Nicole Burnham. And then we have a website, and that's the short address there. And you can check out the website if you want additional information that way. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Hi, so this is very district specific, but I'm from District 4, and I know in recent years, the city planner has really been trying to eliminate single unit family homes from becoming too big, and then they're trying to develop multi-family units. So because of that, a lot of families have young children. So what is the department doing in integrating more public spaces like parks, which I know are very small in number in District 4?
That's an excellent question. So what we do is, so there's a bunch of things that we can do, and there's a bunch of things we can't do. So whenever we get in new development proposals, we do an evaluation to see what amenities and what public benefits are within 3/4 of a mile and 2 miles. And we also have a policy that we want every resident to have a 10-minute walk from their house to a park. And so we look and see, and if you don't have a park, or if you can't access a park within 10-minute walk, then that's when we try to negotiate with the developer to provide land and to provide a new park. In the areas where you're not seeing a lot of development, that's a little tougher because we don't have the same amount of resources, because then we have to compete for other funds to be able to do something like that. And so that becomes a much tougher conversation. As the city grows and as we increase density and as more multifamily buildings come in, that means those new units are going to comply with this ordinance, and we'll start collecting money in those council districts so that we can hopefully amass enough money to acquire the land and build the park in those areas where there aren't any parks. So let's hope that the city continues to grow and continues to grow in that area so we can get those resources to provide those public benefits. I hope that answers the question.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Paula, you had a question?
Yes, so I had 2 questions. And I saw on the slideshow, like, what can you explain briefly what Activate San Jose is? And then for my second question, I don't know if you happen to know, but how are like non-park, just nature lands protected in terms of like, just like protecting them from being like, developed?
Very good question. So Activate SJ it's a strategic plan. It's our department's strategic plan. And it's we adopted it probably about 2-3 years ago. And it outlines what the department would like to see, how we provide our services and access to our services. If just a second here, if I can pull it up, just one moment. Maybe I can share my screen. I can show you a little bit better. I was on the webpage earlier today and it was very is it okay if I share my screen? This is the actual act. Can you see Activate SJ on your screen?
Yes.
So this is the actual strategic plan. You can get it on our website, but if you Google Activate SJ, you can read the whole strategic plan, and I'd like to encourage you to do so. So what it does is it outlines our department's vision, which is that we want to have healthy communities that inspire belongings. And then our mission is to connect people through parks, recreation, and neighborhood services for an active San Jose. And we have 5 guiding principles that we're all trying to align whatever work we do in the Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services Department. We try to align all of our work with these 5 guiding principles. So we want to take care of what we have through stewardship. We want to protect nature. We want to embrace equity and access so everybody has the same opportunity and access to our facilities and our services. We want to help San Jose become a premier place on the map. And we want to make sure that we help promote public life. And so when you read through this document, and I can send it to Danica so she can send it to you, there's a lot of information here about what the department does and our assets, but then we have specific pages within Activate SJ that talks about measuring our success. So we have goals that we aspire to, and then to accomplish our goals, we have specific tasks outlined, and then things that we're going to do in the next few years to achieve those goals. So now keep in mind that this is department wide, so it's not just what I do or my team, it's for everything that Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services does, which is quite a lot. But under equity and access, we did embed the 10-minute walk, where we want all residents to be able to have a 10-minute walk from their home to a park. And then your second part of your question about how nature or open space is protected, there's a lot of different mechanisms. So I think what you're talking about more is about more open space than rather a park. And then there's several organizations in the Bay Area that help, that's their primary objective. So one is Green, I'm blanking. Greenbelt Alliance, excuse me. Greenbelt Alliance. So if you write down Greenbelt Alliance, they do some really good work. There is the Trust for Public Land. And those are the only two that are coming to my mind off the top of my head, but feel free to email me and I can send you some others. And then the county and the water district. It's all a negotiation and it's also part of land use. So the city of San Jose has a city growth boundary around it. And anything within that city growth boundary, based on whatever land use it is, that's where you can develop. But anything outside that city growth boundary is protected land. And then those organizations that I was telling you about, they go out and they try to acquire land that should be protected, like Coyote Valley just became a huge open space nature reserve. And they do steps to help make sure that it goes into a conservation. So it's not exactly what Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services do, but it's certainly near and dear to our heart. But I hope I give you enough breadcrumbs that you can follow outside of this meeting.
Yeah, just for clarification, so it's like not really under like the city's jurisdiction exactly, more to making why can't I say negotiations? The negotiations with like outside organizations to like kind of protect the open spaces, is that right?
I'm not sure I caught all that. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure what I'm hearing is correct. So like the city kind of negotiates with these outside organizations to protect the open reserves. Is that how it works?
The city can, so like Coyote Valley was a big negotiation. It depends on land ownership too, who owns the land and what they intend to do with the land. And then people negotiating with those landowners to either purchase it or put it into a trust. There's a lot of different mechanisms that people can do and pass to follow. So the city can get involved in those types of things. However, most of the time the city just works within its the growth boundary. And so we don't have a lot of open space left. So we have Evergreen that's already preserved. We got Coyote that just became a big preserve. We got some North San Jose lands that are preserved. But we're a pretty built out city. For a very large spread out city, we're a pretty built out city. So most of the lands that are under negotiation or already protected are outside that growth boundary.
Okay. Moving to Commissioner Juneja, your question.
And I'll stop sharing my screen so you can.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. That was super insightful. Just a quick preliminary question before I ask my main one. From what I understand, the current fee policy for developers is that wherever they develop, and if they bring in what was the number 1,000 for the level they need to meet to hit the 3 acres of land or the fee, is it 1,000 people or how is that?
Yeah, 1,000 people.
Okay. So yeah,
people added to the community by the project. So we look at it by unit. So let's say if you had a tower downtown really fast, and it's estimated that there's 1.6 people per unit. So then we wouldn't take the number of units estimated by the population, and I'm probably getting to the weeds here, I'm sorry, by the number of people who would live in each unit, and then that gives us the population, and then we divide it by 3 acres to 1,000.
Cool. So this really just affects major developers, right?
Oh, any one, an accessory dwelling unit, granny unit in the back
Oh,
has to pay a park fee. Single family house has to pay a park fee. 2 to 4 units has to pay a park fee. 300 unit Google has to pay a park fee.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So my question would be is that I know San Jose has been like recently notoriously underdeveloped in the sense that a lot of developers have seen like massive regulatory barriers and like a disincentive to develop in San Jose. Is like a park fee, do you think, contributing to that, like a major one? Or I don't know, maybe this is like a question for PBC, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's an interesting thought. It's an interesting question. I think it's a matter of perspective. I would say, so the city is looking very closely at this matter. So there's something called the cost of development. And I would encourage you, it sounds like you're into this topic. So I would encourage you to look into it. And they're looking into how much does it cost to actually build in San Jose. And so a lot of costs of development right now are out of the city's control. So the cost of construction materials is super high, cost of labor super high. And that's out of the city's control. So what the city can control is, their fees. And so we have permitting fees, and then we have environmental review fees, and then we have impact fees. And so impact fees are your parks fees, your traffic fees, your inclusionary affordable housing fees. And so, of course, anything that adds to the cost could be a challenge for a developer to meet the financing needs that they want to have to be able to build something. And so there is a lot of concern right now about the high cost of development. We have to find a legal nexus to be able to have an impact fee. So this fee study that I'm doing that I told you about is providing that legal nexus, and is going to study the impact of that impact fee and to be able to make a recommendation to the city council. So parks fees is only one piece of a big menu of costs. So I wouldn't say that parks fees, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, although others I'm sure would disagree with me, is enough to weigh a project one way or another, because the way you have to finance a whole project is there's a whole menu there. And without that, if we do not collect the impact fee for a private development for parks, then we would have we wouldn't have a designated pot of money to be able to do those projects that I was telling you about. The city, we would have to compete with the general fund, with all the other departments, everybody else that wants that general fund money to do whatever we need. And so it's not that we couldn't do it without the Park Trust Fund, but where you're going to, in your list of priorities, that's a very tough call to make for anybody.
Okay, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And my second question is, and I could totally have like a misunderstanding of like the fee, but the fee, like say you develop in like Willow Glen area, like D6, could the money gained from that development that can only be used in D6, right?
Right. So there's three things. So first of all, the fee is based off of real estate. Currently, it's based off real estate land values. So there's something called a multiple listing service district. And so where the city's carved up into these different real estate districts. And then those geographies have a land value. And it says, this area, this is how much it costs to buy land. So in areas like Willow Glen, land values are super high.
Yeah.
Right. So our fee is based off those land values. So our fee will vary across the city based on those real estate districts. And we're going to be looking at that with the fee study. Like, is that the best way to do this? Is that an equitable way to do this? Is it fair that Willow Glen pays this high fee and then over here they don't? But but then at the same time, do you want the lower fees so that you can incentivize development to go there because it's more affordable, so that maybe you'll start getting that development parts of towns because the fees are lower. So there's a lot of balancing act there, right? And then spend the money. Typically, we leave it in those council districts. So it's up to the council member to decide how they want to spend the money that's collected within their council district. But is that the best way to do it? And this is another question that, we're asking ourselves, and you can certainly help inform. So if you have a project that's on the border of Council District 1 and Council District 6, and they have a project here, but you need some money here, can this council district share with this council district? Or, or do you want to keep it all just in that council district? That's another thing. Right now, traditionally, it stays in the council district. And then the last thing I touched on a little bit in the presentation is just the money has to be spent on a project that benefits the residents of the project by law. And it can be also by the community too, depending on the definition of community. So again, if it's a small neighborhood project, we spend the money within 3/4 of a mile. And if it's a community serving project, it's within 3 miles. So we're looking at that as well. So a lot of different ways how the money can get spent.
All right, so then my question would be is, did Ms. Ralph, did you have something?
I was going to say, I think that since this was just a report that we've received, we want to limit the number of questions that we
I can
continue
definitely
to
just
ask.
email it.
Okay. Yeah, and that way you can get more information. Rebecca can, give you any sort of answer that you're looking for, or at least try and give you the information that'll help you answer the questions that you have or that you will have. So that's what I would just say, to keep our meeting moving along and to give Ms. Ross, a little bit of her time back, and thank her for coming and presenting to us. We're very grateful, but just continue on because we do have a few other reports that we need to get to. So I hate to interrupt, but I do want to keep us on track.
Thank you so much. I would love to interact with you. I would love to hear your thoughts and questions. I like the Youth Commission a lot. I love that there's this group of young people who are so engaged in our community, who is willing to give their time and perspective. And so I wanted to say personally, thank you as a resident of the city for doing that, because not all young people have that kind of commitment or responsibility. And so thank you from me to you, and I would love to interact with you more. And so Danica can give you my email address, and I can set up a Zoom and we can have a Zoom conversation. And so thanks again, and I hope to hear from you. Rebecca's out. Bye.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right, so having heard Rebecca's wonderful presentation and listening to all of your really great questions, I think that moves us on to our report B, which is our report from our council liaison. Patricia, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again. Today it's going to be short and sweet. Pretty much, we're still continuing with our food distribution every third Saturday of the month. And I know I had sent an email inviting all of you to volunteer to the Councilwoman's Fall Family Festival that was supposed to take place yesterday, but unfortunately, because of the weather, we had to cancel, and it turned out to be a really good choice because it really broke our hearts because we had worked so hard and we're so excited to have it come back, but we canceled it. And obviously, the weather was pretty awful yesterday. So we made the right choice, and we are postponing it to next year in the springtime sometime. And then we'll be celebrating Fall Family Festival in October 2022, but we're actually going to have a spring event to make up for this one. So we'll keep you posted on that because we're excited. So it's going to be definitely a party next year. And then the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is next Friday, November 5th, I will be sending all of you emails about this. We're having our joint city council meeting on gender-based violence and child sexual abuse. So I'll send you more information so that you can send letters of support, attend the meeting, share with others. I know this is an important issue for all of you, so I wanted to share that with you, and I will be sending out that information this week for you. And that's pretty much it for this month. I look forward to seeing you guys next month.
Thank you, Patricia. All right. I think moving on to our report C, our library report. Michelle, are you ready?
I am. Thanks, Danica.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Michelle Ornat, Deputy Director of Public Services for the library. So I have a couple of brief updates to provide. The first one is about SJ Access hotspots. Thanks to the unanimous support from City Council during the August 31st council meeting, they approved our AT&T hotspot expansion plan to continue to address the digital access need of our residents and students. Thanks to their support, we added 1,200 high-speed AT&T hotspots to our collection this week for the public to check out. Please visit sjpl.org/hotspot for details. SJ Aspires is our next program to talk about. SJ Aspires is one of the library's college and career readiness programs, which is currently geared to support our local high school students at William C. Overfelt and San Jose high schools. The program provides students micro scholarships, access to college resources, and an interactive platform that invites them to explore and claim a variety of grade-appropriate awards to help establish a successful pathway to post-secondary education. Since the launch of SJ Aspires in 2019, a total of 856 local high school students have claimed 3,799 micro scholarships. This past Friday, a group of Overfelt High School students were invited to attend a special event hosted by Samsung, one of SJ Aspires' corporate sponsors. Students had the opportunity to hear from Samsung executives, Mayor Liccardo, our city librarian Jill Bourne, as well as tour the campus. To learn more about SJ Aspires, you can visit www.sjpl.org/SJ Aspires. And lastly, we have a few events that are coming up this week because of Halloween. So first of all, starting today through Saturday, October 30th, SJPL is hosting a spectacular book giveaway at all of our library locations for kids and teens to stop by and pick out 2 free books while supplies last. And on Friday, October 29th, we're very pleased to have the return of our annual Halloween Storytime and Parade at the King Library. This event will take place from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Costumes are encouraged, and the event will feature a spooky outdoor story time and a trick-or-treat parade through the first floor of the King Library. And on Saturday, October 30th, from 2 to 5 p.m. at Alum Rock and Hillview branches, there will be a trunk or treat featuring lowriders, community and health resources, books, and more. This event is hosted in partnership with the United Lowrider Council of San Jose, Community Health Partnership, Indian Health Center, Kaiser Permanente, and AACI. And that concludes my report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle.
If there are no questions at this time, I believe that means I'm up next.
Yes.
So, this past weekend, we hosted the annual Youth Advisory Council orientation and had around 14 youth, excluding the commissioners. I believe District 6 gained a new YAC member, so that is very exciting for him. Additionally, we have our upcoming town hall on November 8th. In our training on November 1st, we're going to be discussing the fine details of it to make sure that we're all on the same page. And aside from that, I think it's time for the commissioners' reports per city. So, Commissioner Chen.
All right, I'll keep this short. So in our last meeting, my Yak and I essentially planned out the policy proposals / events that we plan on completing in the near future. I don't really want to comment on the specifics now since they're subject to change, but I've assigned that work to different subcommittees on the Yak and plan on having these project and policy proposals completed by our meeting next month.
Thank you, Commissioner Juneja.
My Yak and I finished our work plan and are looking forward to presenting it at the next meeting.
That's wonderful. As for my Yak, we just passed this policy and we are going to be working with District 8 and District 2 for a Vote 16 policy. Commissioner Utinko.
Awesome. So my district is currently working on a project proposal for a conference that District 4 has held in the past called AIM.
Commissioner Sriram.
So my act just had our first meeting last Thursday and since we started pretty late, we're only starting like our work plan now, but we're just going to try and finish it by the next meeting. And we also gained 5 members.
That's exciting. 5 members, congratulations. And Commissioner Escobar.
The District 8 YAC has currently been working on environmental policy measures, so stay tuned for that. And as mentioned previously, we're also working on lowering on our next voting policy. So again, stay in tune for that. And that's mostly it for now. We're kind of trying to focus on recruitment, and then I think a lot of it is just gonna see next month. So very excited.
Thank you. And I believe that concludes our commissioner reports, so we can move on to adjournment. Wait, agenda items for the next meeting. I spoke too soon.
There we go. It's like one more thing.
At this time, I believe the agenda items for the next meeting consist of Commissioner Ghosh's discussion on turning the newsletter into a blog, and District 3, District 2, and District 8's joint vote 16 policy proposal. Commissioner Chen, do you have anything for the next general meeting?
Right. As I said in my update, I have a project proposal and I can probably finish one policy proposal by then.
Great. Commissioner Juneja, is the joint policy everything that you have for this upcoming general meeting?
Yeah. And the YAC work plan. Yeah.
All right. And I already did District 3, which means Commissioner Utinko, it was the project proposal, right?
Correct.
Alrighty, Commissioner Sri Ram, will you have your YAC work plan ready by the next general meeting?
That's a possibility, although can I like check and then tell you later if that's possible?
Yes, that works. Commissioner Escobar?
Just the voting thing, but for now, don't look at anything else.
Alrighty, I believe that concludes it.
Right. And then one more time, just for my notes, can we just go through really quickly the joint districts for the proposal?
Yes, it is District 3, District 2, and District 8.
Wonderful. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I had those correct. All right.
If there's nothing else, let's move on to adjournment. Great. The next the next regular meeting of the Youth Commission will be on November 22nd, 2021 via Zoom webinar at 6:30 p.m. PDT. Is there currently a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting?
I, Commissioner Utinko, move to adjourn this meeting at 7:23 p.m.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Escobar, I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Then the motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:23 p.m. unanimously passes.
Wonderful. Great job, everyone. That was excellent. All right. Well, as we all drop off, we'll see everyone next time.
Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
See y'all.